Good afternoon and welcome to Beyond the Forecast. We start with a live look at downtown Buffalo. Things look relatively quiet looking at this Skycam picture. I was just outside about an hour ago on the roof, and that Skycam is not quite doing justice to just how warm it felt. I still had the sunshine back when I was out on the roof, but I was starting to feel that humidity. Definitely not the most comfortable day, especially after yesterday just ended up being one of the most gorgeous days I've had since I've started living in Buffalo. It was really nice. I know Patrick is out there right now feeling that humidity, and maybe some showers and storms are going to start making their way toward you kind of soon.
You got that right. First of all, it feels completely different than it did 24 hours ago. Of course, the sun was out. It was warm, but it wasn't very humid. It is very humid now, and a very dark sky right over there. So I just checked. There is some rain within not too far. Luckily, all the lightning is with a storm that's about 15 miles that way. So I think we're going to be okay, unless this thing produces lightning anytime soon, in which case we're going to take this indoors quickly. All right, first of all, let's get to it. A very warm and humid day, and we're hoping as storms move through today, they will clear out this evening and early tonight. That's because there's something in the sky tonight. Actually, there are two things in the sky tonight we'd love you to be able to take a look at. It's a planet conjunction. We've got two planets that are going to be visible tonight after about 8:30. You can kind of see the view here if you're looking from the Buffalo area and anywhere in Western New York, and you look to the west northwest and look up a little bit, you will see two very bright lights, and that's the planets Jupiter and Venus, very close to one another. That's what they call planets being in conjunction. You won't fool them for stars, because you won't see stars yet, because the sun will have just set it or will be setting. But just above that and to the right, you will be able to see those two planets tonight in the evening sky. And we're hoping we can get the clouds out of here if we time this out just right. But there is going to be some rain between then and now, and that is for sure. So the other story, of course, today is the humidity. We are going to see a warm and humid rest of the day today. However, sometimes these thunderstorms can lay down a nice cool breeze, and that could lower the temperature briefly if a storm happens to come near you or pass you by. But thunderstorms are in the forecast for this afternoon. Scattered thunder showers again tomorrow, but mainly the first half of the day is what we're thinking, with a drier weather pattern into the afternoon. And then a very warm weather pattern and humid weather pattern takes us through the rest of the week. Thursday, especially, a day that's going to be in the mid-80s, but heat index values approaching 90, if not a little above that. It'll be very humid. There is a chance of a few storms Wednesday night into Thursday morning, we think. And then Friday may very well turn out to be the most active day, as some severe weather is possible on Friday with storms that are going to be racing through. That is something we're going to watch, but it certainly will be warm and humid out ahead of that. And speaking of humidity, our dew points, which May and early June were in the 40s and 50s, very comfortable. We're now into the 60s, and dew points above 60 is what you feel. Dew point at 70 above is really, really muggy and uncomfortable, almost tropical. And we're going to get close to that value starting tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. Our dew point right now, quite frankly, is at 67, so we're not far from that 70-degree number already. So yeah, very humid conditions in the days ahead. The good news is that on Saturday, the front that brings us the potential severe weather on Friday will scour out the humidity, so that by the weekend, we're back into the 70s, and it'll be very comfortable, and we'll lose that humidity. So good news there. All right, rain chances. Compared to last week, there are more numerous rain chances in the days ahead. Today's one chance. Again, tomorrow morning, we believe. Again, maybe on Wednesday night into Thursday, and then on Friday, probably the best chance as some storms roll through. And then late Sunday into Sunday night, another cold front's going to move through, and that will lead to some very comfortable air much of next week. A much cooler weather pattern is coming our way after we have this I would say, you know, a couple of days of heat and humidity. Now, let's get right to satellite and radar, and you can track some of those clouds, and of course we'll zoom in and you'll see some of the showers around. And right now, there is a shower heading, well, right for me, and also down towards, it looks like Lakeshore, Athol Springs, and Eden, just to the, looks like just to the west of Eden. And this is tracking towards the village of Hamburg, and likely will make it into Orchard Park, West Seneca, and Buffalo. And behind that, that's the storm near Silver Creek, just to the north of Dunkirk, that is producing prolific lightning right now. So that's a storm we're going to be watching as it tracks towards, looks like Derby, Eden, and potentially into the village of Hamburg once again, East Aurora, and Boston. Okay, so that's something we're going to watch. And we do think that there could be some more storms later on this afternoon, and that is something that we're really going to watch closely as these storms roll through. The forecast for today, temperature-wise, we're already there into the mid to maybe even upper 80s, but I will say, if any rain falls, that temperature could cool pretty quickly, at least for an hour, and then that number goes right back up. In fact, I will tell you that I came out here and it was 86 blazing degrees. The clouds have rolled in, a rain-cooled breeze of air has moved our way. No rain yet, and it feels a whole lot better. So that is something you may notice too. Temperatures tomorrow, not quite as warm, but still on the warm side, near 80 degrees, and overnight tonight as well. It'll be warm, temperatures in the 60s overnight tonight. That humid air keeps temperatures elevated at night, and then again tomorrow we'll see those scattered showers and thunderstorms, it looks like tomorrow, especially again the first half of the day. All right, future look, let's get to it. First of all, it's been, you know, kind of suggesting a mid to late afternoon cluster of thunder showers moving through this afternoon. What it's doing, though, that's a little troublesome. It's not capturing the current storms very well. So we'll have to see how it does with the later ones. But I do believe that there is room for a wandering downpour to come through this afternoon. There's no rain shadow, no lake shadow today, I should say, as there's not much of a breeze off the lake. So everybody's in play for a thunderstorm this afternoon. And we take you through tonight. Tomorrow, a few scattered showers and storms in the morning till around midday, and then it should be drier in the afternoon. And then, as you notice, we will see a renewed chance of some thunderstorms, possibly late Wednesday night into Thursday morning, with hopefully some drier weather Thursday afternoon. So much of tomorrow afternoon and Thursday afternoon should be fine. It's kind of the morning hours that we may be tracking most of the storms. Now, moving forward, we're going to quickly take a peek at the next 6 to 10 days. And what's a color that seems to be very prevalent over this map? That is blue. Why? Because two fronts are moving through, one Friday, one Sunday. Those both will deliver a cooler breeze. So that next week, right now, is looking very comfortable. It doesn't necessarily mean, it just means cooler than average. Average right now is in the mid 70s. So I easily could see numbers next week being in the low 70s and even some upper 60s for the southern tier next week. So we're not going to have a continuation of heat and humidity next week like we're having this week. So the forecast for today, partly sunny, clouds increasing with the chance of some afternoon showers and thunderstorms. Temperatures into the mid 80s and a light breeze, okay? Notice the sunset is, or the sunrise is at 5:36. The sunset, by the way, is at about, I think it's right around 8, it's about 8:50 or so tonight. So hopefully we can get the view of those planets that I told you about. A chance of some scattered afternoon, I should say scattered showers tonight. I do think a lot of those will hold off and move in during the morning hours tomorrow. Sorry, I just got a text from the Buffalo Bills wondering if they should take practice inside, so we'll get back to them shortly. They only have 3 days of minicamp, so hopefully they can stay outside. All right, scattered showers and a thunderstorm, it looks like, for tomorrow, especially in the morning. Okay, next 7 days look like this. You'll notice 80s for the foreseeable future through Friday. Notice after the storms on Friday, Saturday looks a lot more comfortable, so does Sunday. Friday has the chance of being a weather impact alert day. if all things pan out. The Storms Prediction Center actually has us on a risk already for Friday, and it's only Tuesday. So there's an outlook there that could suggest some storminess on Friday. Saturday, Sunday look great. Sunday looks fine. Late in the day, though, some showers, maybe a thunderstorm rolls through, and then temperatures in the low 70s to start next week. So I am now in striking distance of that rain shower. Again, I'm looking, Lauren, at a very dark cloud that's toying with me. It's not raining here yet, but it could be very soon. It's that other storm near about to cross into Erie County that also has its eyes on us. So that's the report here from Hamburg. Some storms in the next hour or so, and maybe a few more middle to late afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, credit to you, Patrick, for being out there right now in the humidity, risking, maybe a quick downpour heading your way. But thank you for that forecast. We are going to be back talking a little bit about World Cup weather, which starts this week.
All right, World Cup soccer is just about here at venues all over the place with different weather conditions in play. And Lauren has taken a look at different locations of where games are going to be played. And surprisingly, some of the areas that may be at most at risk of not the best conditions for soccer in midsummer are right here in the United States. Is that not true, Lauren?
That is absolutely true, Patrick, and I'll go into why that is in a moment. So, the World Cup, typically it's usually hosted by one country. However, this World Cup, the 2026 World Cup, is being hosted by 3 nations: Mexico, the United States, and Canada. So it's kind of all of North America. So we have stadiums across all 3 nations. And you might think to yourself, well, Mexico is the farthest south. It's the closest to the equator. Surely that's where all of the heat's going to be. But no. America is going to be delivering most of that heat, most likely. But we will talk about that in a moment. So the World Cup is going to be starting this Thursday is when we have that first game, June 11th, and it is going to continue for about a month, just over a month, probably about 6 weeks, 5-6 weeks, and with the final game being played on July 19th. So this is a big global event. It's bringing a bunch of people all over America, not just America, to parts of Canada. We have Vancouver and Toronto, as well as areas of Mexico as well. So people are going to want to know how that weather is going to be affecting them. But first, I did want to bring just a little bit of science into this. I'll be talking more about climatology for a lot of this, but let's just talk a little bit about science. So it's required for any field used in the World Cup to be grass. Obviously, when players are sliding around on the grass, turf can be very uncomfortable, but turf can also just get very hot, much hotter than grass can. So obviously you have the rays from the sun. Let's assume it's a perfectly sunny day, clear skies, just shining right down on the field. You have those short wavelength from the light of the sun coming through. They get absorbed by the ground, and then it kind of just produces that longer wavelength, that heat, that infrared, that radiation, that really warm air comes back up after it's absorbed by the ground. Now, turf absorbs that heat a lot better. Typically, a lot of turf fields, they have like that black rubber base. So black is very good at absorbing heat. It builds a lot of heat, and so temperatures on the turf can be several tens of degrees hotter than what the actual ambient air temperature is. However, grass tends to stay pretty consistent with what the air temperature is, and a lot of that is thanks to a process called evapotranspiration. So grass is a plant. It photosynthesizes. Obviously, it draws water from its roots, and then it photosynthesizes. But what it also does is that it has little stomata that tend to release any excess water that they have, and then that water will evaporate. In order for water to evaporate, similar to us, why we sweat and why sweating is actually good and helps our bodies cool down, is that it requires a lot of heat and energy for that water to absorb to go from a liquid to a gas. So the air around something like grass or trees in the summertime actually does tend to be a little bit cooler than the air, so grass also just helps regulate some of those temperatures. So host countries for the last 10 World Cups, you had Qatar, Russia, Brazil, South Africa, Germany, South Korea, and Japan. So that was the last time there was kind of a dual hosting ship. France, USA, Italy, and Mexico. France was actually, in 1998, the most recent host and winner. And now looking at all of these countries, which one do you think was the hottest World Cup to date? Instinctively, I would think Brazil. It's pretty close to the equator. It is very humid there. But no, actually the hottest World Cup to date, and I'll talk about one of the hottest games to date, was in the United States. So America already has a reputation for that, but notice that was in 1994. It has been over 30 years since this hottest World Cup. Obviously, with climate change, global warming, average temperatures have been increasing, so people are quite concerned about what this World Cup is going to look at. So the first 3 games of the World Cup are going to be kind of home games, if you will, hosted by the host nations. So you have Mexico, Canada, and the U.S., with Mexico actually playing on Thursday, Canada and the U.S. playing on Friday. Mexico will be playing in Mexico City, Canada just a little bit south of the border for us in Toronto, and the United States will be playing in L.A. This is kind of the rainy season for Mexico. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So maybe not necessarily the best weather with respect to precipitation, maybe even some storms. Toronto, I mean, we've been talking about for us here in Buffalo, that rain chance on Friday. I think they're also going to get in on that. But California's looking good for at least the U.S. men. So, but of course, those are not the only places hosting. There are 16 cities hosting World Cup stadiums, 2 in Canada. You have Toronto and Vancouver. There are 11 across the U.S. I'm not going to rattle off all of those names. You can see them if you would like. And then in Mexico, you have Mexico City, Monterrey, and Guadalajara. All of them hosting, and these are just the next 3 days starting on Thursday, which is when the World Cup starts. And generally, all of these stadiums are going to be seeing their first game within those first couple of days. And you do notice where all of that heat is, generally the eastern half of the U.S., even pushing well into Canada and down into Mexico as well. So what are the statistically hottest host cities for this time of year, for this June-July timeframe? I looked at what the average highs are for this time of year from June 11th through July 19th. So I'm going in descending order. So the 5th warmest looks like it is going to be Atlanta, Georgia, with average highs ranging from 87 to 90. Number 4 is Miami, Florida, with average highs ranging from 89 to 91. Monterrey, Mexico, average highs ranging from about 93 to 94. It was harder to get specific statistics on Mexico because I have the websites that I go to for any U.S. cities. So some of the Mexico ones were a little bit harder. This does generally look like the idea. Houston, Texas, average temperatures 92 to 95 because the higher end was higher than the Monterrey numbers. That's why I gave it the number 2 spot. And number 1, Dallas, Texas, average highs 91 to 96. So those are very warm temperatures. That is, of course, not counting in humidity. You might be surprised that there's only 1 Mexico City, but in actual Mexico City and Guadalajara, they tend to have their temperatures peaking a little bit earlier in the year because by this time of year, June and especially July, that starts their rainy season. So it's actually a little bit on the cooler side, not cold by any stretch of the imagination, but they are not as cool. Now, I'm taking away a couple of those cities because those have domes, they have roofs that they can put over the stadium, pump in some AC. These 2 do not. I am especially worried about Miami, Florida. That one looks like it's going to be a pretty hot one with all of that heat and humidity, but don't ignore Monterrey, Mexico, because that could also cause some issues. And I bring up that humidity. Let me see if I can get back to the start of that graphic. Oh man, oh good, fantastic. Oh, okay. So I forgot to put in a pause point, but it was basically showing the humidity across the country, but it is basically that entire eastern half of the country. That is including Texas. I know this morning, at least, their dew points were in the upper 70s. That is very uncomfortable. So now I'm showing the temperature contour with the temperatures and those heat indices. Obviously, Dallas, the eye certainly goes to that with a bit of a heat index, but Miami, temperatures 86, feeling like 94. Now let's talk about the World Cup final, which is going to be They say it's in New York. As a proud New Jerseyan, it is actually in East Rutherford, New Jersey. New York City does not have a stadium, New Jersey does. Anyway, MetLife Stadium is going to be hosting the World Cup final on July 19th at 3 p.m. I want to note that 3 p.m. time frame because some of these warmer locations are having their games maybe earlier in the day or later in the day when you're not dealing with as much of that peak day heating. 3 p.m. is pretty much when temperatures are peaking around the tri-state area. So that is going to be tough. And the record temperature for that day in July is 102 degrees. That is not saying that that is what it will be, but that gives you the idea of the kind of heat that they can have that time of year. And of course, the World Cup record for any game, not just for the final, was in Orlando, Florida at about 105. It was hard to pin down exactly what the temperature was. I saw some competing things on websites from 101 to 105. Regardless, it was very hot, it was humid, and the temperature on the field felt about 110 plus. So it was very dangerous. These are not conditions that you want people to be playing in, even if they are professional athletes. So that is just something that we're kind of gonna keep our eye on with how those temperatures are. I know closest to us is that Toronto. That looks like one of the safer areas with respect to heat, but I mean, hot temperatures can happen anywhere this time of year, Patrick.
Yeah, no kidding. You know, Lauren, I'm hearing this, and it's just so reminiscent of our version of football being played into those kind of conditions. A couple years ago in Miami, the Bills traveled to Miami to play the Dolphins in September, and players were dropping like flies. It was so hot and so humid. And by the way, the Bills sidelines were in the sun, whereas the shade was for the Dolphins. A little home field advantage there.
So definitely
but anyway,
something.
Good info about soccer that's coming up. By the way, the rain has just started here. It's coming. All right, welcome back, everyone. It is approaching the 1 o'clock hour here in Hamburg, where the it's 1 o'clock everywhere, really, but you know what I mean. Showers are approaching. Just got word that Bills' first day of mandatory mini camp will be practicing indoors because of the rain that is approaching. Hopefully it gets through there by the start of practice, but again, some heavy rain heading for Orchard Park, Hamburg, and Eden, East Aurora, West Seneca, and maybe even Buffalo this afternoon, Lauren.
Yeah, Patrick, I mean, I know you're out there right now. That rain is coming. I wanted to kind of briefly go back to what I was saying before. I know you showed that 6 to 10 day outlook. Here's the 18 to 14 day outlook. You do notice our area likely around average, but those areas where those stadiums are going to be for the World Cup do look like they're going to be above average, specifically Miami, and even going into the summer as well.